there are television shows, and then there are television worlds. Most shows flicker into memory after the credits roll, their characters dissolving back into the static from which they came. But Little House on the Prairie was never quite like that. From the moment it first aired on NBC in September 1974, it did something rare and quietly radical. It made ordinary life feel sacred. A family on the frontier, a town stitched together from hardship and hope, and a little girl named Laura, who saw the world with eyes so open that millions of viewers wanted to borrow them for an hour each week. That show ran for 9 seasons, produced 3 television movies, and then ended in 1983. But it never really ended. It moved into reruns, into memory, into the imaginations of children who grew up and had children of their own, who sat them down in front of the same stories they had once loved. And now, in 2026, as a brand new adaptation launches on Netflix and a fresh generation discovers Walnut Grove for the first time, those of us who knew the original cannot help but look back. Tonight, we ask, where are those faces now? What became of the people who gave us Charles and Caroline, Laura and Mary, Nellie and Almanzo? Some are still with us, still working, still surprising us. Others left too soon. All of them, in one way or another, changed us. This is Little House on the Prairie, then and now, 2026. If you try to explain what made Little House on the Prairie work, you will eventually run out of every answer except one. Michael Landon. He was the engine, the moral center, and the creative architect of the entire enterprise. Born Eugene Maurice Orwitz on October 31st, 1936, in Forest Hills, Queens, New York, Landon had already built one legendary television legacy as Lil Joe Cartwright on Bonanza before he reinvented himself as Charles Ingalls. He was 37 years old when the pilot aired in 1974, and he did not simply act in the show. He produced it, wrote many of its most affecting episodes, and directed with a gentle authority that shaped the tone of everything that appeared on screen. What Landon understood, and what gave his performance its enduring power, was that the greatest fathers in fiction are not men without doubt. Pa Ingalls was weary. He made mistakes. He sometimes struggled to find words for the things he felt most deeply. But he always chose to show up, and Landon played that choice, the repeated, daily decision to love his family out loud, with a sincerity so complete that generations of viewers accepted him as a template for what a father could be. His connection with his young co-stars, particularly Melissa Gilbert, who played Laura, was not manufactured for the camera. By Gilbert's own account, Landon became a genuine father figure to her during those years, a man who looked after her on set and beyond it with real tenderness. Landon also used the show as a platform for stories the rest of television was too cautious to tell. Disability, grief, addiction, racial prejudice. These were not topics primetime dramas of the 1970s typically handled with seriousness, and yet Little House did week after week because Landon insisted on it. He believed storytelling had a responsibility to truth, and he wielded that belief with discipline. Michael Landon was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in April 1991. He died on July 1st, 1991, at the age of 54. Far too soon for a man who had given so much, and far too soon for audiences who had never imagined Walnut Grove without him. His final public appearance, a moving interview on The Tonight Show just weeks before his death, showed him facing the end with the same quiet courage he has spent 20 years scripting for other men. The world of classic television has never quite replaced him, and perhaps it was never meant to. There is a particular kind of heroism that never gets a parade, the heroism of steadiness, of showing up without drama, of holding everything together so quietly that no one notices until it falls apart. Karen Grassle spent 9 years making that heroism visible. Born on February 25, 1942, in Berkeley, California, Grassle came to Little House with serious stage training, having studied at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, and it showed in every scene she played. Ma Ingalls was not a simple character disguised as one. She was a woman of the 19th century, educated enough to be proud, practical enough to survive, and emotionally intelligent enough to know which battles were worth fighting. Grassle gave Caroline a full interior life. There were moments when the camera caught her watching her husband or her daughters, and you could see the entire depth of her feeling in a single held expression. She did not need speeches. She communicated through the details, the way she smoothed the daughter's hair, The particular set of her shoulders when things were going wrong, the softness around her eyes when they went right. In recent years, Grassle has remained a visible and beloved figure in the Little House community. She attended the Little House on the Prairie final 50th anniversary reunion in Simi Valley, California, in December 2025, where she joined fellow cast members, including Rachel Greenbush and Allison Arngrim, for a 3-day celebration that brought fans and actors together one more time. Grassle appeared alongside Dean Butler, who played Almanzo Wilder, to announce a reunion event, and fans were struck by how warmly and naturally she carries her years, still recognizable as the woman who stood at the kitchen window with a candle casting light across her face. She also appears in the documentary Little House Homecoming, sharing her memories of the show and its lasting significance. In 2026, Karen Grassle is 84 years old, a living keeper of the flame that the Ingalls family first lit more than 50 years ago. She was 10 years old when she ran down that iconic hill for the first time, braids bouncing, arms swinging, the whole visible energy of childhood compressed into a single joyful descent. Born on May 8, 1964, in Los Angeles, Melissa Gilbert was adopted into a show business family and was already a working actress before Little House came along. But Laura Ingalls made her something different from a child actress. It made her a national figure, a companion to a generation, a girl that millions of viewers felt they knew personally because she made feeling things on screen look like something completely natural. What Gilbert did over the course of the series was something that very few performers of any age manage. She grew up in public without losing herself. The Laura of the early seasons, impulsive, fierce, occasionally maddening, always searching for what was fair, gradually matured into a young woman capable of real sacrifice and complex love. Gilbert traced that arc without ever seeming to perform it. She simply lived it, season after season, and the audience lived it with her. After the series ended in 1983, Gilbert continued working steadily across television and film. She later served 2 terms as president of the Screen Actors Guild, from 2001 to 2005, becoming a prominent and respected advocate for performers' rights during a pivotal period in the industry's history. Most recently, she joined the cast of the off-Broadway play Pen Pals, performing alongside Veen Cox from December 23, 2025, through January 4th, 2026, a production about 2 women who maintain a friendship through letters for 5 decades without ever meeting in person. She also made a guest appearance on Hallmark's When Calls the Heart in 2025 and starred in the off-Broadway play Still, which opened the same year. Her life in 2026 reflects what happens after fame. She has built a family-centered existence, co-founded the lifestyle brand Modern Prairie, and returned selectively to stage and screen projects that speak to who she is now rather than who she was then. In 2026, Melissa Gilbert is 62. The braids are long gone, but the eyes that saw everything so clearly on that frontier are just as sharp. She came to the role as a composed, studious older daughter, Mary, the one who did things right, who seemed destined for a life of quiet accomplishment in a world that rewarded quiet accomplishment in women. And then the writers gave her one of the most challenging story arcs in the series. The illness that gradually took her sight, leaving Mary Ingalls blind and forcing the show to grapple honestly with what that meant. Melissa Sue Anderson, born on September 26, 1962, in Berkeley, California, was only 12 when she joined the cast. What she delivered over the course of the series earned her an Emmy nomination and the lasting respect of everyone who watched. The blindness storyline mattered because Little House refused to treat it as a single dramatic event that resolved neatly. Mary lost her sight, grieved it, adapted, struggled, and eventually rebuilt a life as a teacher in a school for the blind. Anderson played every stage of that process with control and emotional intelligence that belied her age. She did not reach for easy sympathy. She earned the audience's admiration by letting Mary earn her own. After Little House, Anderson continued acting, later relocated to Canada, and largely stepped away from the Hollywood spotlight, choosing a more private life. She is noted to have been married to Michael Sloan from 1990 until his death in 2025. She has attended cast reunions over the years, including the 2024 photo call at the Monte Carlo Television Festival, where she appeared alongside several of her former co-stars. In 2026, Melissa Sue Anderson is 63. The quiet dignity she gave to Mary Ingalls, The refusal to surrender to despair, the insistence on becoming whole again, feels, in retrospect, like a portrait of the actress herself as much as a character. No character in the history of Walnut Grove generated more delighted outrage than Nellie Olson. She was a girl viewers loved to despise, ringlets perfectly arranged, chin tilted just so, insults delivered with the precision of someone who had spent serious time perfecting the art of cruelty. Allison Arngrim, born on January 18, 1962, in New York City, was 12 when she first played Nellie, and what she created in that role was not simply a villain, but a fully inhabited human being whose nastiness was always threaded through with the fear of someone who suspects she is fundamentally unlovable. Arngrim has spoken candidly over the years about a difficult child of her own, and perhaps that understanding gave Nellie her hidden dimension, the moments when a sneer cracked and something more complicated showed through. As the series progressed and Nellie married, matured, and attempted to become a better person, Arngrim played those changes with the same commitment she had brought to the cruelty. In 2026, Arngrim remains one of the most active and publicly engaged members of the original cast. It was Arngrim who announced the ultimate cast reunion event for December 2025 in Simi Valley, California, taking to social media with characteristic enthusiasm to rally fans and former colleagues alike. She co-hosts the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast alongside Dean Butler, and the pair also discussed the new documentary Little House Homecoming, which features interviews from several original cast members. In an interview in November 2025, Arngrim expressed genuine interest in appearing in the upcoming Netflix Little House series, suggesting she could see herself playing Nellie's mother, Mrs. Harriet Olson. "I'm old enough to be Mrs. Olson now," she joked. In 2026, Allison Arngrim is 64, still sharp, still funny, still generous to the fans who have followed her across 5 decades. He arrived relatively late in the story, but the arrival changed everything. Almanzo Wilder was a young man who matched Laura in stubbornness and surpassed her in patience, and the courtship that unfolded between them over the later seasons of the show became one of classic television's most quietly beautiful love stories. Dean Butler, born on May 20th, 1956, in Prince George, British Columbia, was 23 when he joined the cast. He played Almanzo without flourish or false charm, letting the character's fundamental decency do the work, and it was more than enough. Butler's post-Little House career has been genuinely varied. He continued acting for years, with roles ranging from Buffy the Vampire Slayer to independent film. But in recent years, he has found a particular and meaningful calling as a preservationist of the show's legacy. In June 2024, he released his memoir Prairie Man, My Little House Life and Beyond, a book centered on his experiences on the show, featuring forewords from his former co-stars Melissa Gilbert and Allison Arngrim. The memoir is candid about both the joys and the disappointments of his years on the series, treating the past with a kind of honesty that earns trust rather than simply trading on nostalgia. Butler co-hosts the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast with Arngrim, and also appeared in the documentary Little House Homecoming, helping to bring the show's history and locations back to a new audience. In a November 2025 podcast conversation with Patrick Labiordos and several other cast members, Butler shared memories and reflections that showed how deeply the show continues to live in him, including a candid admission about his least favorite episode. In 2026, Dean Butler is 70. He is a man who helped make one of television's great love stories, and who has spent the years since making sure it is not forgotten. Every good community in fiction needs someone to push against, someone whose pettiness defines the edges of everyone else's generosity. In Walnut Grove, that role belonged to Harriet Olson, shop owner, town gossip, social climber, and tireless expert in other people's business. Katherine MacGregor, born on January 12, 1925, in Glendale, California, was 49 when she first appeared in the role, and she played Harriet with a theatrical precision that transformed what might have been a simple antagonist into one of the most beloved irritants in television history. What MacGregor understood was that truly great comic villains are never just comic. They are comic and true. Beneath Harriet's snobbishness were visible wells of insecurity, loneliness, and a particular fear of someone who has built their entire identity on social superiority and knows, somewhere deep down, how fragile that construction is. MacGregor let those glimpses through at the right moments,